welcome back. My name is Sean Moore, and this is another episode of the Create It Studios podcast. I'm joined today by Stu Westphal, President and Chief Product Officer at Fort Block Games and founder of True Industries. Stu's career spans years of creative and technical innovation in gaming and interactive media. He's produced major titles like Hank's Rider with Tom Hanks, Draw a Stickman Epic, and The Godfather Family Dynasty. Now he's leading development on Takeover, a faction-based multiplayer shooter that's redefining how competitive gameplay meets player-driven storytelling. Stu, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Sean. It's really great to be here.
It's great to meet you today in person. I've heard your name so many times, and I know Katrina Green, who could not be here this trip,
we miss you, Katrina.
Yes, we miss Katrina. But she has spoken so highly of you and just how much you've given back to the Full Sail alumni community, and now with our friends up here in Franklin at Create It. So thank you so much.
Yeah, isn't this place really cool?
It's awesome. Yesterday was my first visit. And I was just, I've seen photos, I've heard about what's going on here, but you really have to come and see this place and see it in action.
Yeah, you know? I mean, sometimes people are just lining up outside the door. Yeah. I think you were saying earlier that, there's some Walmart employees that were like, hey, get in there. It's neat to see production being available to everyone in such a way. So I'm excited to see how Create It Studios not only does here, but, hopefully expands across the nation.
And I think that's the goal. I think this is kind of their pilot facility, and then, kind of wanting to see how this all plays out. And then the thought and the goal is to expand this into other Walmarts around the United States. So
super cool. Yeah. I mean, any way to, make it available. There's so much creativity in everybody. That's all around. I mean, I really feel like we are created to be creative, and this is just an amazing opportunity for some friends to get together and just come down here, and so that's neat.
It's really cool. In this space, when they first opened this space, or when I heard about the idea, I was like, that first thing, being an alumni rep at Full Sail University, one of the first things I think of is, now we have places that we can link alumni together and get in person and, let them network and all that. And we're actually doing that tonight. We've got an alumni mixer meetup tonight at 6:00. It'll run till about 9, and, hopefully we get, the Tennessee, Franklin, Nashville area, to show up. So we're excited about that, and excited that you're going to be hanging with us for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I'd love to start the episode off just kind of learning a little bit more about you and kind of your early, kind of interest in wanting to get into the entertainment media industry, and, kind of how did you find out about Full Sail, and what kind of inspired you to want to pursue, a degree with us?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Thank you, Sean. Well, I've been interested in entertainment and media, since I think, like many people, from a very young age. And really early on, I remember when I got my first computer, and my dad brought it home from Intel. It was, it's an old one back there, so I won't tell you about what it was because it will date me. But just digging in and then exploring. And I also remember there was a time that he was playing a game that looked really cool. It was Doom.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, Dad, what is this game? He's like, don't worry about it. And I was like, come on, Dad, like, this looks awesome, And I remember logging into Windows when he wasn't around, and I was like, where's this game Doom? And I was like, I can't find it anywhere. And then I found something called MS-DOS, and I opened it up, and the console comes up, and I'm like, what is this, And I just started looking around, and then I found Doom.
Amazing.
And so for just exploring and trying stuff out, and then I started modding games with friends, hosting events where people would come together. And then I got into games. I got into film editing. My high school had started like a film editing course, and I got to be part of the inaugural group. And then I met a really good friend then. We just did it all the time and roamed around campus making films. Got to use, it was like the early time for digital editing with video.
Cool.
And so that was really neat. And then so much freedom was given to me, which was really my style. So I loved that. And then my buddies and I, we put together a company called Solid Media at the time, and we did a couple things together. And then I went to a Christian college in Tampa called Florida College with my
cool.
best friends, and we did that for a while. And then after that, I met who I'm married to now, and just started pursuing that relationship. And I moved out to Kentucky, and from there, really just trying to get work out there, but still doing all my, fun side projects and stuff. And
Yeah.
I started looking at in Nashville at Belmont and that kind of stuff at different schools, because at the time I was working in a factory and I just could not escape, and it was nightmare mode, and a lot of people do that, but for me it was not the right place for me, and I did my best there, but it just always just dreaming about the creative ideas. They're just always flowing. I was like, I can't really express any of that here. And then I found Full Sail, and I started looking at it.
How did you find Full Sail? I'm curious.
It was through my research.
Cool.
I just started, I think, doing web research.
Yeah.
And because I was looking at Belmont first, and then I looked at a place in New York and a place in California, and then I looked at Full Sail, and I talked to some people, and then later on, I found out that I qualified for the Phil Tan.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and so I got that
Phil Tan
call,
scholarship, yeah.
and at that time when I got the call, I was like, man, I feel like I had done my first associate's degree, and some time had gone by, and I was like, I'm not getting anywhere, and I need to like do something different to move forward and be more true to who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got that call and the accelerated schedule, how Full Sail does their courses was very attractive to me. I was like, I can just jump head first into this. I'm ready for this, and we did it. And my wife and I packed up and we drove out there.
So you were married already at this point?
Yeah.
Cool.
And she's gone on this crazy adventure with me.
I love that.
And I thrived there. I loved the type of pressure that it had, the diversity of knowledge. It was just all things that I had been dabbling in my whole life, but now I'm like getting real knowledge and getting great gear to work on and that kind of stuff, and working with really fun people. So I loved it, and I would go from degree program to degree program, just visiting people,
jumping around.
And so I did some projects out there, and I worked at the same time for who's still a friend now, James Paul Wisner. He's a music producer. And so I worked with him as a recording engineer. So that was my first degree at Full Sail.
Okay. Let me ask this really quick. Did you take a tour of Full Sail before you decided to enroll? Do you remember that?
I do remember a tour, but I think I was already sold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, we're going, and
I was the same way.
Yeah. You just locked in already.
I was like, this sounds awesome. Like, this is my mothership, like I've returned.
I'm pretty big on like, once I'm committed, I'm committed. And, and I'll see it through. It was something instilled in me by my dad when I was young. And so for better or worse, I like to finish things.
Nice.
But yeah, so I did that degree. I did the music business bachelor's, and then went into the entertainment business master's degree. I loved every minute of it, and really appreciated the faculty. Very supportive and encouraging, and built relationships there. So that was my Full Sail journey.
That's awesome.
And then let's see, after that. Well, I think you just asked, how I got into it. So
yeah, and that was for me, a lot of times I'm so interested to hear about like when you graduated and you're like, okay, what do we pack up and move again? Like, tell me a little bit about kind of that early stage of leaving Full Sail and getting into a career path. Yeah,
well, so I was on campus. My wife and I, we had an apartment at first, and then we moved into a house because my firstborn, Camden, who's 16 now. He was born out there, and so we got a house and we were renting. But there were times where there was this one time where we got really sick. The baby was sick. Hannah and I were both sick. It was just so hard that we didn't have any family around.
Yeah.
And so I was in the master's program at that point. And so we're like, well, I've still got halfway to go, but this was just a huge signal that we would like to be around family right now. And so Hannah would fly home with Camden a few times, but we all moved back to Kentucky. That's where Hannah's from. And that was good. I just did the program online, and then I came back for graduation.
Nice.
And then I ran an event there. I met another Full Sail alumni, Willie Baker, and back when I was doing stuff in one of the, I think it was Misa Club.
Oh, yeah.
And he came and spoke, and then we connected because I had a friend doing films in LA, and I was trying to help get funding through that. And then I met Willie when he came and spoke, and we built a friendship. And then after working with him on some stuff, I was helping him build some of his startups. We did an event called the Music Media Money Gab Fest. And so I ran that and planned it and marketed it, and it went really well. And I got to meet a lot of really great speakers that he brought in. And one of those guys was Jeff Hoffman, the founder of Priceline.
Cool.
And he was so encouraging. And anyways, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but that was a big thing. And then I moved back to the Bowling Green, Kentucky area and the greater Nashville area. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And, when I first learned your story and kind of heard about some of the projects you won, obviously the big one that jumps off the page is the Tom Hanks project. Tell us a little bit about that and walk us through how that process began and
Okay,
and talk
sure.
about the project. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, well, so when I was looking for work after I left Full Sail, I looked all over the place, and I did so many interviews, place to place, and was driving all over Tennessee.
Yeah.
And interning at places. I interned at the CMA Fest. I worked a bunch of stuff there. I worked for an ad agency out here that does stuff for Dolly Parton and Cracker Barrel, and worked with them for a really long time. And it was like way out in Mount Juliet. So I was just like trying to stay awake while driving back and forth. And
Yeah.
then I got a foothold doing web development, which was not my degree stuff, but I had been dabbling in that to make money all that time while in school. And after a year of that, I was like, this isn't going where I needed to go. Small businesses were the main clientele that we were serving, and I was seeing like Wix.com and all of this stuff showing up, the DIY stuff.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, I need to shift gears again. And I got wind of a place called HitSense. There's a fly in here.
I know. It's I don't know if the viewers can see that, but the listeners won't see it.
Yeah.
Maybe if it lands on the microphone, they'll hear it.
I'm just like wondering if it's going to go in my mouth while I'm long-winded. Maybe that's a good thing. So I got caught wind of an opportunity to be at HitSense. They were looking for a creative director. And a friend of mine was already there. And so I reached out and I was like, oh, actually my brother-in-law, he's like, hey, you should come work for this company. He was working there as a designer.
Cool.
And I was like, that's perfect. Like I back into entertainment for real.
Yeah.
And so HitSense was doing a lot of web stuff, but they had a couple games that they had rolled out. One of them was called Draw a Stickman. Epic, and it was the first one that they did like cross-platform. And I came out there and I interviewed to be the creative director. When I got there, they said, we actually don't have that position anymore. We broke it into an art director and a project manager. Do you want the project manager job? Because we already gave the art director to someone in-house. And I was like, I'll take it. So I started there, and then within a couple months, they promoted me to their first vice president.
Nice.
Of, what was it, like interactive entertainment or something, games and interactive entertainment. They let me pick the title, and we were just kind of like looking around. The title was kind of meaningless to me, but what they did give me was like the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, there, because they moved on to focus on other things. So they went on to build some restaurants, and one of them moved to China. And so I was like supporting him while he was in China and helping with some of the restaurants and the marketing stuff. But my main focus there was running this games and interactive department. And,
cool.
And that's where I cut my teeth on the games business. While I was there, when they got a Webby Award for the first draw Stickman.
Okay.
And while they were receiving that, they met a representative of, I think it was Angie's son, of CAA, Creative Artist
Yeah.
Agency. I knew all about CAA from school because I had studied them. And when they get back, they're like, yeah, we met these people, and I was like, we got to talk to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? And I was just like, I know all about these people. We need to make a partnership with
They're
them.
huge.
And yeah, we just, if they're, they like what we did, we need to start doing more stuff. So they set up a call, and I got on with Angie's son, and I just said the same stuff. I was like, I know who you guys are.
Right.
I studied you in school. Would love to work with you. I think we could do some amazing things together. She's like, awesome. Yeah, let's do it. We'll set it up.
That's great.
So at the time, there was Comic-Con was coming up, and we had a game at the time called Battle Pillars. And we had an opportunity because we spent some money with Wired magazine.
Okay.
And they're like, hey, we'll come out to our VIP booth. You can show off your game or whatever. And we didn't have a really good marketing strategy for going out there. And so when that landed on my desk, I was like, we got to come up with something. How are we going to get noticed at Comic-Con? Because everybody's dressed up. And how are we going to promote our game in some way? And so at the time, I hired a Barack Obama impersonator and 4 security guards. And we
That'll
went
grab
out
your
there.
attention.
Yeah, and it was a huge hit. The people were like a sea, like Moses parting the waters, and it was
awesome.
so fun. We just walked. We didn't even have tickets for Comic-Con, and they just let us right in, and it just kind of closed the place down in a way. And so that was really fun. It was interesting because people would be whispering as you walk by, and you hear what they say, and somebody would be like, how are they letting the president get so close to all these people? And the other one's like, because it's not the real president. We're at Comic-Con.
That's hilarious.
And anyways, there's more to the Comic-Con story. But right after that, I went up to L.A. To visit Creative Arts Agency. And I met with Angie's son. And she introduced me to a guy named David O. and Michael Blank. And we just hit it off right away, and it was just interesting. And they had a project with Billy Crystal that they were wanting to get off the ground, and they said, "Hey, we've been trying to get this going, and it's not going the way we want to." And I was like, "Well, tell me what's the issue."
Yeah.
And they told me the issue. I was like, "I can knock this out and knock it out of the park for you. Give me a week to come back with." Some mock-ups and get the art style, and so Billy will approve it, and he did, and so we did that project for a while, and while that was in development, Michael called me back, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do something with Tom Hanks? He wants to do this cool thing about a typewriter app."
That's cool.
And I was like, "Yes, of course."
Yeah.
And
Don't say no to Tom Hanks.
yeah, so that's how that one started.
That's cool. That's awesome. What kind of is cool about this story is I can almost sense that these meetings that you took with CAA, you had to be so confident, and just I got nervous just thinking like how I would be in a meeting like that. I'd probably be sweating and super nervous. I mean, you see so like you seem so cool and calm, collective. Like what kind of advice would you give to, maybe an aspiring, entertainment media professional to how to handle themselves in a situation like that?
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Well, my advice would be, I don't think of myself in that way or other people as very different. I see us all as people. So we celebrate our differences, but we also celebrate our sameness.
Yeah.
And so I look at us as like brothers and sisters. And I think that has been very helpful. Whether you're talking to someone that has absolutely nothing, or you're talking to the kings of the world, there's different decorum. So I've had to learn a lot of things along the way. But as far as the confidence, I'm a follower of Christ, and so I pray and spend time in meditation, and that's been, I think, the number one confidence giver for me is that's who I serve, and I I mean, I'll work for people, but
Yeah.
so, and I believe that we're all made to be here to work together and to be creative, and
Yeah.
it's like a giant sandbox you put us in. So it's like, let's enjoy that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
Thanks.
And I know we talked earlier before the pod started about your faith and how you kind of it's kind of helped guide you and direct you along your career. Can you speak to a little bit about your relationship with Christ and how that kind of has formed the the path that you've kind of made for yourself
Sure.
in this business?
Well, I'll say very frankly, I grew up in the church, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I've been a Christian since I was 12, but I didn't really get it until pretty recently. And so that's been life altering for me.
Yeah.
So I'll say that I believe that I've been blessed throughout the years with lots of challenges to wrestle through. But my real walk, I think, started maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. And that's when I realized I wasn't really getting it. I was doing the things, thought I was a good person, but was missing it, But when I would look back, it was like, well, there were still a lot of blessings that came from the things that I had learned. But so I think in general, like the basics of like what I believed about life, that did lead me into like how I interacted with people and how I looked at the world. But within the last 6 or 7 years, it's been quite a transformation and a change of direction and how I view things and the type of projects that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I was okay with a lot more when I was younger, and now as a father, it's like, and sometimes you forget. You're like, hey, I got to show you this. I've
Right.
been waiting to show my kid this, and I'm showing him like, I don't feel the same way anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So
No, that's great.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing. with
Yeah,
that.
thank
That's,
you.
That's really great.
Appreciate you asking.
I wanted to talk about, building teams and culture, because I know that you've been a part of a couple of different projects, and it's like, so, you lead teams, right, with Fort Block Games and True Industries. What's your approach to building creative teams and then maintaining a culture that kind of encourages collaboration, innovation? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Well, most of my time at HitSense was like a crash course in leadership, and I'll say I did probably every single thing wrong there as a leader. When I would watch The Office with my wife and I saw Michael Scott, I was just like, my face would turn red, and I was just like, oh, I'm the Michael Scott of my office, and even though I really cared about people, I had an agenda. I was out to prove myself, and and as much as I tried to help others, and I feel like I did, I hope people feel that way too.
Yeah.
I realized later, I was like, oh man, look at all these mistakes I made. So what advice I'd give as far as initial leaders is get some mentors early.
Yeah.
Somebody that can be really candid with you. The other thing too is learn about servant leadership really early.
Yeah.
That I think is really helpful. I, for the longest time, thought I didn't have an issue with pride.
Okay.
It's really hard to be a leader when you're prideful.
Right.
And so, in meetings, people will be like, oh, this is my idea and this is my idea.
Right.
And I was cursed with this idea that, I could see it. And if you don't see it better than what I can see, then I'm not going to go with that.
Yeah.
And I that alienates people. And so if you're going to lead teams, look at how you can take yourself out of the mix and create a safe environment for people to grow and to be what they need to be. And take out yourself from that agenda. That has been biggest improvement, and also my number one struggle through the years. I still haven't mastered that skill.
Yeah.
So
No, I like that because on one side, you want to give everyone autonomy to kind of run with things, but at the same time, you also want to kind of like, hey, let's pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that there's a total balance when you're running teams, especially in this kind of creative and gaming space. So that's
for
great.
sure.
That's awesome. It's really cool. Like when you mentioned like getting a mentor early, a lot of, with what I do working with alumni from Full Sail, a lot of times they're like, well, how do I find a mentor? Like what would be some of your, recommendations or just advice on finding a mentor? Like how would you go about, or how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one thing I'll say is I was always very eager, maybe too eager, just always probably trying too hard, right?
Yeah.
And that can put some people off. But I mean, my radar was always up, always pushing. While I was at Full Sail, I was working, and as I'm networking and meeting people, I'm looking and I'm listening and I'm still like in the state of like proving value, and during that time, I looked at anybody that was farther along as a potential mentor.
Right.
And even if it wasn't like a formal thing. And so people that have become my friends have been mentors to me over the years. So I mentioned James Paul Wisner.
Yeah.
And I learned a ton. And I spent a lot of time with him and grew close to him. And then I met Willie Baker, and we're still friends to this day, and when I was doing stuff with Willie, I met Jeff Hoffman. And I've called upon Jeff many times. And one time he held an event for me, and he didn't even charge me.
That's awesome.
He just like, and we spent time, and so he's been a great encourager to me. And there's just been various people along the way, and people come in and out of your lives. And another one that was a huge mentor for me, he probably doesn't realize it, but the guy that I mentioned earlier, Mike Blank at CAA, I felt very close to him, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. And he just kept bringing me opportunities. And obviously I worked with Tom Hanks. I got to work with Billy Crystal with him. I met a lot of people that we try to get projects off the ground with, but the funding wasn't there or something fell through, I was working on a battle card game to do some stuff for like NBA and NFL, just some ideas I was running with. And I got a call from Mike, and he's like, hey, what are you working on? And I told him. He goes, okay, well, that's perfect, because how would you feel about making a battle card game for Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, are you serious? Like, sports are great,
right?
But I really like Avatar,
Yeah.
And so I dove head deep into that, and I went out to Lightstorm and toured the whole facility, got to see just stuff from the movies that I loved, and that was just so incredible. And unfortunately, Fox came in and killed the deal because they wanted like 7 figures, like an upfront thing, which we had already negotiated. So it was just like, it's so hard working in creative, and when something you've poured all your time into gets nixed like that, it's pretty brutal. So that's, I guess, some advice is just be prepared for some really tough moments, Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I think this is a perfect time to take a quick break.
Oh, excellent.
And hear a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to the Creative Studios podcast. I'm here with Stu Westphal. Back
Hello.
from a little break.
Yes,
little
that was
commercial
nice.
break. Awesome. So we've gotten up to a really cool point, because I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on the evolution of the industry. You have seen the industry shift dramatically over your kind of career span, and things from like going from mobile to cross-platform, now into AI and immersive experience. What trends are you most excited about in terms of where games are headed?
Yeah, great question, Sean. Where games are headed. A couple of things come to mind on this. One, I'm a big fan of a story called Ender's Game, which a lot of people know. They made a movie at some point, but I read the books as a kid. And Ender has this experience I forgot what they called it, but basically it was like games to test him, to prepare him for war and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it worked with his mind, and what he would imagine was like worked into these things, but they would still have some kind of control. And it was just like, generating in front of him. He's interacting with it or whatever. And he was like special, so it was like more intense than everyone else's. And Ender ends up like breaking it and taking it to a whole new level. And then there's this whole like transcending thing that happens, and he like connects with the alien species for real.
Wow.
And so it's a really interesting story. So I lead with that because I do see us leaning and heading in that direction. There's been such advancements with AI and LLMs, and Elon Musk recently talking about Grok being a full game engine by next year.
Yeah, that's wild.
And if you watch, there's what they call vibe coding, and I'm sure they'll come up with different terms later, but there's all kinds of people just building these like games in the open with AI, and there's actually like playable, interesting things now. So it's shaking things up, which I think AI is doing for every industry. And so if you think of like a lake being clear and the sediment at the bottom, all that getting stirred up and it becoming cloudy and you can't see, I think that's what we're about to really go through as a society. But it will settle, and we'll see through it clearly again, but it would just be rearranged. So that's happening with the entertainment industry on a big level, which I think provides a lot of opportunities, especially for new people, because, bright-eyed, brand new ideas, this is the time because it's chaos.
Yep.
So if you're up for being in the frontier, well, the frontier's here. So that's where I see that trend going. I think there's another opportunity as well. AAAs have, I believe, let a lot of people down over the last years with several titles, and it's incredible to me. Some of these that have come out, and you're like, how did this even pass QA? Like, and this isn't new. And where's the innovation? Where's the stuff that made gamers fall in love with gaming in the first place?
Right.
And Nintendo, however's consistently done an amazing job. But there's an opportunity there, I think, for some of these people that are just starting or have smaller studios, that really focus on those core things that matter. So I think that's interesting. Plus, with the addition of the AI tools that can help smaller groups do things that they couldn't afford to do before.
Yeah.
I think the smaller groups, want to be employing people if they could,
Right.
If they had the budgets for it. But those tools have helped them kind of close some of those gaps. And so there's the purists that are like, you can't do any kind of generated art or design or anything from AI. And then you have those that are like, I'm going to do it all, and everything in between. So that's a big trend.
Yeah. Well, I like how you said too, like, especially for some of these younger, kids that are coming out of even Full Sail, like, I mean, you have young kids, teenagers, and they're using AI, and it's like they're teaching me stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, this is wild. Like, my son is 13, and he's like, Dad, check this out. I'm like, wow, like, he's using it as a tool already. He's only 13, so it's like I feel like some of the younger generation, they might be able to implement it into future games a little better than some of the folks have been doing it forever. So
I agree with you. It's an interesting thing, when you're given technology at a certain age.
Yeah.
For me, when I was given, when my dad brought the computer home, right? Like, I knew that thing within months better than he did.
Right.
And this is the same thing with every generation and whatever they're given. I think, it's just like they don't have the weight of life, in their brains yet. And so they can just go, they're a full creative mode, right? Like they're playing all the time, which is a great state of mind, I think, for us to be in as people. Because that's where we're most creative.
All right, we're back from another break with the Creative Studios podcast here with Stu Westphal. Stu, thank you so much. Welcome
Thank you.
back, everybody. Stu, I wanted to change gears a little bit and talk about, entrepreneurship and risk. And I'm coming at you with this question from kind of the, standpoint of maybe some advice that you would give to some developers who want to start their own company or take that kind of creative control of their projects. And, what would that advice be? Like, what would you tell a graduating class in Full Sail, someone that wants to kind of follow in your footsteps? What advice would you give them, and what are some tips?
Okay, yeah,
for them?
Great question. For entrepreneurship and getting started, what I've found so far has been probably my biggest pitfall over the years is focus, which Jeff Hoffman very early on said, hey, do one thing at a time. And he said, if you do one thing at a time, before you know it, you've done a whole bunch of things. And you look back on your career and you're like, yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. That was awesome. But don't try to do a bunch of things at once.
I love that.
Yeah, I did too.
Did you ever read The Compound Effect?
I haven't.
There's a book called The Compound Effect.
Oh,
and it kind of speaks to that.
Okay. Yeah.
Like you do one small step, and over time you look back and you've done this giant body of work.
Oh,
it's a great book. I forget who wrote it. Is it Daniel Pink? I don't know. I can't remember.
We'll have to look it up.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the advice is, you hear it and you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Employing that advice has been incredibly difficult for me over the years. And, I would say, I guess, a generalist in many respects, just interested in everything, learning to tell myself no and to start focusing more and niching down has been really hard. But I've used that advice the best I have been able to and was able to do several, pretty cool projects that I've really enjoyed. So I think it just depends on what you are looking to accomplish. And there's so many different routes to go as an entrepreneur. There's, I think, so much opportunity. So I guess don't go at it alone is a great one, I think. That's another pitfall a lot of times is trying to do everything yourself. Start with stuff that's small, I think, to get some small wins under your belt. I think it's benefited me to be bold and not be dissuaded by people that will tell you no, because you'll be told no your whole life about everything that you think of. If you're a dreamer, it's just that there's no end to that, I think. Until you're winning, people are pretty much like against you. And I think it's because it makes people afraid for you. And because they don't do it. But you meet some gems along the way, these, mentors and encouragers. And so treasure those people and keep them close to you. Yeah. All kinds of stuff I guess we can dig into on the entrepreneurship.
No, that's great though.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, and I like your remark about don't be afraid to take risks and that sort of thing, and not don't be afraid to hear no, but keep pushing forward. So that's great. Looking ahead in terms of your career path and the teams that you're on, like what's next for you guys? Like any hints? I know the gaming world's always tough about NDAs or just you want to talk about what you're working on, but where do you see? Well, obviously you're going to get through the takeover launch, and you've got alpha coming up. But have you started looking beyond that, or is takeover kind of right now the biggest?
Yeah. Well, so there's a lot going on at Fort Block Games. Besides just the takeover game that we're building in Unreal. That property and the marketing around that too have different experiences through Telegram and Discord, where players and fans can come in, do these community-based activities and get rewards for those activities and just kind of just build up that community. So there's that aspect. And then there's visions at Fort Block Games to do some pretty neat storytelling with your NFTs.
Cool.
And so this kind of like interactive storytelling that you mentioned earlier. And so you would get to see your stuff in that. And so there's a lot going on there. And then with my company, True Industries, we've been doing co-development for games and getting into publishing. And recently just added some new partners. So now we're offering game porting. So consoles,
Cool.
PC to Switch to mobile. So that's cool. And then we also, through another partnership, just expanded in our sound design, music composition. So really excited about that. Really strong partnership with some great credits there. So we've expanded our offerings. And so as we're looking forward, it's really just about improving our internal marketing and seeing, what opportunities are out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
That's so great. I wanted to ask you, like, what are some of the games that you're playing right now that maybe you haven't worked on, that are inspiring you, or maybe, giving you some cool ideas for maybe something that you might want to work on down the line? What are some recent titles that you're into?
Well, I just sat down to play, I think it's been out for a little bit, but a game called Herdling.
Okay.
And I played it on the Xbox, and I just really enjoyed it. I did the whole game in one evening, and just kind of relaxing. The art was beautiful, the music was beautiful, and the story I thought was beautiful. There's no dialogue, and you are like a shepherd for these, like cow-like alien creatures,
Awesome.
But it was just really pleasant,
Yeah.
You'll clean them, you'll pet them, you'll feed them, and you're trying to keep their health up, and you shepherd them to like their place of rest, of home up on the clouds. It's kind of like a spiritual journey. Is what it feels like. And I thought the mechanics were really cool and a little bit challenging, and but just like going through it, it was very graceful, so incredible. And it's not a huge game. Like I said, I was finished it in the evening, but I was like, I love that, and I'd like to do more like that. And the last game that did that for me was a game called Brothers. Did you ever play Brothers?
I haven't played it, but I've heard of it.
So I played it on mobile. It's now on like multiple platforms, but that one had a very beautiful story as well, and was also like really cathartic for me because I mentioned to you earlier, that I lost my brother in 2016, and in this game, I didn't really think about him at first when I was playing it, but you play as an older brother and a younger brother. And the story,
wow,
and the story begins where the younger brother's at sea with his mom and this terrible accident, and she drowns, and so it's like really like intense right off the bat. And then you pick up the gameplay where the father's like on his deathbed from an illness. And the doctor's like, hey, there's this like potion you can go get, but it's like really far out. And it's like, I think, a made up language. So you just get you just intuitively know, with the pictures, the way they're telling it. And you go on this adventure with the older brother and the younger brother. And you got that, you play both characters. So you control them both. You have to have them both run around with two different thumbs or joysticks or whatever. And then they work together. The older brother is like taller, he can reach higher things. The younger brother is shorter, he can get through stuff. And it was just so cool, and so epic. And the visuals were great, and it also felt graceful. It just felt very intuitive. You're running through, and you're just like, you feel good the whole time because you're like, it's challenging, but like I'm doing well, and you kind of just see what to do, and you just work your way through it, and it just keeps like unraveling. And then I won't spoil it if you haven't played it, but it was just, I just bawled.
I'm fired up to play it right now.
Oh, I mean, it hit me hard. I would imagine it would hit other people hard too, but like obviously it was close to home, and I needed that release, and it was like intense. And so I just keep talking about that game because I was just like, that one really will always stand out to me because it did something great for me. And so I think that's on my horizon too, is to look to build some more experiences like that for players.
That's cool.
So
That's awesome. Well, sorry to hear about your brother.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thoughts are with
He
you
was a good
guys.
guy.
But no, that's great. No, I love that. You know, that's like a therapeutic type of experience
Yeah.
for you know, for things like that. That's, I mean, that's a great idea, actually.
You know,
Yeah.
there's people on all sides of the fence on games, right?
Yeah.
You've got people that see no value,
Mm.
and they think it's a huge waste of time. And I do understand. I mean, you can go too far,
Yeah.
and you could lose your life to it. And some people have, but people that I think struggle in that way find other ways to struggle if it wasn't a game,
Right.
And so I don't blame the games, unless some of them have some toxic mechanics,
Yeah.
like addictive stuff. But I have found tremendous value in gaming, what it's did for me as a person, as far as learning how to see the world and to solve problems and to just incredible way
Yeah.
to really. It's kind of like when you read a book, you get into the mind of the author in a way,
Yep.
and you
Yeah.
learn a lot about the author personally, because usually creative works reflect, the authorship. Games are the same way,
Yeah.
and you just, and games are hard to make. Good games are really hard to make.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many factors, not just from the technical and from the artistry, but the storytelling and all those components. And so I feel like you gain so much from good games.
Yeah.
And they could do so much for you, and you can just really connect with other people in a huge way. And I think when that's the focus, you're looking at connecting people and
Yeah.
creating these moments, and you can just do a lot for people through games.
That's awesome. I have like goosebumps right now. That's good stuff. I love it. Well, Stu, I want to thank you so much for being here today, and
Yeah.
looking forward to hanging out with you a little bit more tonight with our meetup, alumni meetup here at Credit Studios. Before we end this podcast, though, I want to ask you about your pinch me moment. That moment you've graduated Full Sail, you're doing this thing that you set out to do when you went to school for all this, and you just took a step back, or you took a moment to pause and just say, you know what, I'm really doing this. Like, is there a defining moment for you where you remember that and you were like, wow, or you may have several of those. I don't know. Some people have several pinch me moments, but I was curious about yours.
Well, thank you first, for having me. This has been really fun.
Been awesome. Yeah.
And getting to know you before the podcast, and obviously during it. I'm looking forward to tonight. So thank you very much, Sean.
Yeah.
And for pinch me moments, I think that there's been several, where stuff's happening and you're like, this isn't real life. Is it real life? And there have been lots of moments like that. It hasn't been all like fun and games, and especially in games, It's hard. It's so hard. All of, I think, entertainment has been, but when you're loving what you're doing, the hard is something you're loving. And so I love the wrestling, and the solving and not knowing. It's just my personality, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But then you find yourself in just really like interesting things. Like I've sat at the table with Yoko Ono and had tea with her in her house in New York.
That's amazing.
I would never have thought that, and so sweet. Got to see the white piano, where John Lennon wrote Imagine. I found myself making Billy Crystal laugh, telling him a cute story that my son told me when he was 5,
Amazing.
when I said, hey, the little green guy with one eye from Monsters Inc. Camden? He's like, yeah. And I was like, that's who I'm going to go work with. I'm going to go meet this guy. And he's like, no, Dad, no. Mike Wazowski. That's his name. I was like, it was Billy Crystal. He's like, no, Mike Wazowski. I was like, get it right, Dad. You're going to go meet Mike Wazowski. You just find yourself in like, I don't know. And it's fun to connect with other people that are loving what they're doing too. I don't know. It's different. I've had a lot of different jobs before this career, and I've done a lot of different things in this career. I did music, and I've done different technology and with games, but I do believe you get to meet interesting people no matter what.
Yeah.
But there is something special when you're both, or the group is doing something that has a creative like source first, it's really incredible and special. And I think we take entertainment for granted, and I think we also maybe overindulge too.
Yeah.
And so I think having a balance there is really important, but thinking about what goes into all these different creative projects and the people behind it, I think is a really great exercise for anyone that's like just watching it. And as you're diving into it, knowing like this is a huge community, and we need to be there for each other and support each other and show gratitude and share in each other's successes and pick each other up in our failures. But yeah, I guess the biggest pinch me moment is going out there, the risk of the entrepreneurship, the doing something that is deeply important to you, even though it's just like sometimes it's felt impossible. Like whether from the challenges or even just like being like in awe of like the opportunity. So it's a mixed bag, but it's a good one.
Well, we're all proud of you down here at Full Sail and at Create It Studios. So
Thanks, Sean.
Congrats on everything. And we really can't wait to see what you do next, and excited for you guys with Takeover.
Well, thank you very much, Sean.
Wishing you the best, my friend.
Yeah, likewise.
So, awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here today. And thank you for those that have tuned in to this edition of Create It Studios, the podcast. We'll see you all next time. Thank you.